under the law. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I reinstate my call for accountability and transparency. The actions taken by the OSP in this matter are deeply troubling. And the actions also taken by governments are deeply troubling. They must be addressed with the utmost... Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I reinstate my call for accountability and transparency. The action taken by governments are deeply troubling, and they must be addressed with utmost agency. We owe it to our citizens and to the legacy of our nation's commitment to justice to ensure that such abuses of power are not repeated. Mr. Speaker, I urge my fellow members of Parliament to join me in condemning the actions of government and the state authorities, and no current or formal appointee of any government should go through such an ordeal. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members. Honourable members, this is a statement on our own member who used to be a former member, former Minister of State. So I think I am going to be guided by 93(5) that nobody is going to be allowed to speak more than 5 minutes, and the comment should not generate debate. Honourable members, I'm going by our own standing orders. I am going by our own standing orders, and I'm going to take 3 from each side. 3 from each side. Then I'll give the leadership 1, 2, 3 leadership, 3 leadership.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, we have 10 members on this side. We have 10 members on this side ready to comment. We have 10 members on this side ready to comment. 10, yes. No, 10, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 10 people.
Leader, I can't take 10.
If they don't have anybody who wants to comment, that is up to them. But we have 10 people who want to comment. I caution you, Mr. Speaker. I caution you. And he said that he was ready for it. So 10 people will comment on this side.
You said he was ready.
You said you were ready.
I will vary my orders. I'll give 5 each, including leadership. 5 including leadership. So I'll begin with Honourable John Jinapo. Not more than 5 minutes, please.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me start with a Ghana Web report. And it is dated, Mr. Speaker, 2017, Friday, 28th July 2017. AK-47 wielding corps raid John Jinapo's home. Mr. Speaker, 5 police officers believed to be from the National Security on Friday raided the home of former Deputy Power Minister, Mr. John Jinapo, in search of documents related to the controversial $550 Ameri deal. Mr. Speaker, this very house this house, this very house, approved the Ameri deal.
What is it?
Speaker, I thank you. Earlier on, I had tried to catch your attention. I think it's important we set the parameters right. Let it go into the record that nobody's afraid of this subject matter. And the leader says that he's cautioning. Nobody's afraid. Nobody has anything to hide. Now, the point I want to make is that, Speaker, yes, when we are debating, we make reference to other sources of information. Let it be put on record that any matter that anybody wants to reference, it should be tabled. It should be tabled. Speaker, if our colleague has some source of information, let that information be tabled before you can proceed on same subject matter. You can just get up and say that Ghana Web. Table it. Let him table it. No, he should table it. Anybody gets up and say Ghana Web, he should table it. We can insist. Let him table it. Then yes. He can take his source serious.
Honorable John Jinapo.
Mr. Speaker.
You've already spent 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, that's most unfair. That's most unfair. I mean, you can't do this to me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you are a leader. And you should know that when something is public record, especially in this house, we do not tender any evidence. Professor Mike Okwe, then Speaker, made a ruling on the matter in this chamber. You were seated here. Professor Mike Okwe wrote to the CID in respect of this matter. And so what other evidence do you want me to tender when it's captured in the Hansard? Anything captured in the Hansard, you don't tender any evidence. Mr. Speaker, I am saying that on that fateful day, Mr. Speaker, on that fateful day, when my house was raided by AK-47 wielding national security operatives, when they banged on my door, creating fear and panic, sending my 6-year-old child into a state of hysteria, into a state of fear. We had members here. They never commented on it. And I commend Professor Michael Kwe on that day when he stood up and ruled that what they were doing was wrong. Mr. Speaker, they took my phone, they took my laptops, and took it to the United Kingdom to investigate me. Today, a very simple matter. You are scared of it. Mr. Speaker, let me explain something. The OSP has declared Mr. Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. As a fugitive. Mr. Speaker, in our local language, fugitive, in our local language, it means that Wadenwa Kamura. Or, to put it simply, Wajibam. Or in the Hausa language, Otilo. Or to put it in a more simpler way, Yagudu. It's as simple as that, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, we should not be afraid of accountability. As public officials, when they took my laptop, it got to a point they couldn't even open the iPhone. I told them I was willing to come and use my fingerprint. It was then and there that they told me that the phones had been taken to the United Kingdom. I had to give them the password. Eventually, the very Ameri that I was accused of, a minister was dismissed because it came here padded by almost $800 million. Mr. Speaker, on this auspicious day, on this day of reckoning, on this day of accountability, the only thing I can say is that we wish the man in white.
5 minutes.
The best of luck.
Is up.
But Mr.
5 minutes is up.
The finance minister should come here and settle the scores as well as
5 minutes is up.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable.
Honorable member for Bimbilla, you have 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, we are building a democracy. The honorable member who just spoke said gun-wielding policemen raided his home. That is what a democracy is. Police people. My brother, you don't use soldiers to raid somebody's home in a democracy. Yes.
Honorable members, I am not giving the floor to anybody on point of order. Please.
Mr. Speaker.
Please, let's tolerate each other, please.
Mr.
Yes.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let them be informed. Let them who stand up be informed that by 4 a.m. on the 7th of this, January, there was no defense minister in Ghana. Let them be informed. Let them be informed. Let them be informed that nobody in Ghana, let them be informed that the gentleman, tell the gentleman here that he's just been nominated Deputy Minister of the Republic of Ghana. You are no more in a position to be shouting. Respect yourself. You are in government today. Mr. Speaker, let them know that by 4 a.m., when soldiers and police entered here to keep order, there was no Minister of Defense in Ghana. Be educated yourselves. Mr. Speaker, I still want to repeat. Let me repeat to my colleague. That in a democracy, you do not use soldiers to raid somebody's home, especially when that person has told you, that I am not in the country and I will report when I get back. Ofori-Atta wrote to the OSP that, look, I am not in the country, I've received the invitation and I will come back and report to you for any investigation. You have no right, Mr. Speaker, you have no right to send soldiers to raid a man's house when he's not there. When he has told you that I will come, I'm out of the country. It is worse than armed robbery. In fact, to the extent that I have seen pictures of Richard Japa, who has just been forgiven of his sins, raiding somebody else's house. What business has that man in the house of a man who is supposed to be traveled outside? This is not the democracy we are building.
Thank you.
It is wrong for John Mahama, who just won an election, to try to use soldiers to intimidate people.
Thank you very much.
We will not agree today.
Thank you
we
very
will not agree tomorrow. We are not cowards.
Thank you.
We will account to anybody who wants us to account.
Thank you very much. Now, yes.
Mr. Speaker, the former defense minister, in his concluding statement, mentioned one Mr. Japa and said that somebody who has just been forgiven of his sins, Mr. Speaker, he has never proven that the guy committed a sin. He has never proven that the man committed a sin. So you cannot say that somebody who has just been forgiven of his sins, nobody forgave him of any sin because nobody proved any sin. So, Mr. Speaker, the man is not here. He should withdraw that part of his statement. He should withdraw that part of his statement.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, the case against Richard Japa, the appeal, and the current finance minister was withdrawn by the current president. The appeal was withdrawn by the current president. Allow the court to deal with the matter. Allow the court to deal with the matter. And let's see whether you have sins or you don't have sins. Allow the court to deal with the matter.
So
Mr. Speaker, allow the court to deal with the matter. And let's see whether there are sins or there are not sins.
So have you...
But if you want me to withdraw the word forgive, I'll withdraw that word. But I say to you that allow the courts to decide whether a man is guilty or not.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Honorable Member for Bolgatanga, is it Central or Central? Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am very sad that in our country the biggest perceived enemy of our economy is being defended the way my colleagues are doing. And everybody knows. And everybody knows. No. Everybody knows. Everybody knows.
Honorable Adongo, how did you come by that? That is the biggest...
Mr. Speaker, if that makes him happy, I withdraw.
Please, just withdraw. Honorable members.
Yes, the truth.
Honorable members, please, let's be guided by our all standing orders. This comment should not generate any debate. So please, let's make a statement that we invite no other person to come and challenge your statement. Please, let's be straightforward.
Mr. Speaker, you allowed very contentious, debatable issues to be raised here. And you are now asking me to respond to debatable argument without debate? Is that what you are saying? You admitted all that debatable documents that he presented here. But I want to say that if you are a Ghanaian and you respect yourself, Ghana has gone into debt restructuring and embarrassed globally. Who did that? Ken Ofori-Atta did that. The Ghanaians who bought our bonds, went through a DDEP. Who did that? Ken Ofori-Atta. And so, if you get up to defend this person who has robbed us of our peace and happiness, and you expect me to debate this in a manner that is not debatable, I beg to differ. But Mr. Speaker, the truth is that the OSP has made it very clear that the state did not send anybody to Ken Ofori-Atta's house, and that was staged by Ken Ofori-Atta's own people.
Hold on. Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, let the records reflect that this side of the House brought this matter up, questioning the mode of the action taken by state security operatives. Mr. Speaker, the argument being made by my colleague is to the effect that the man has committed some crimes and we are defending. Mr. Speaker, let it be known by him. Let it be known by him that as he is now in this chamber, he's aspiring into public office. He's seriously lobbying to be made a deputy minister. Mr. Speaker, he has not even been recognized. It is some of these unguarded statements. That is why he has not been recognized. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about the mode of the raid, the arrest. We are not saying that if the state has evidence against Ofori-Atta, you shouldn't try him.
Very well.
Mr. Speaker, if indeed there is an issue against him, the state can try him. Then he can have access to his lawyers.
Leader.
But you cannot accuse him that the man is guilty.
Leader, I'll come to you. Because you have your time so that you can address all these things, please.
Mr. Speaker, he has to withdraw that part of the submission.
Leader, which part?
These are my views.
Go on.
Yeah, they are my views. The minority leader doesn't tell me what to say in this house. He doesn't dictate to me what I say in this house. And I'm saying that when, as a government, you decided to violate the Public Financial Management Act with impunity, this day was coming, and it has arrived. The Public Financial Management Act is very clear. The Public Financial Management Act is very clear that you cannot commit this state to a multi-year contract without the Minister for Finance, himself issuing a commencement certificate. And yet, after he issued a commencement certificate, he was still drawing on contingency fund as if he didn't know about the project. And he thought that you could do that as long as you want. But the subject is that the OSP has spelled out the reasons why he's looking for him. And I'm discussing what the OSP is calling him for. That when he decided to engage in multi-year transactions and refused the approval of Parliament, knowing very well the implications in the Public Financial Management Act, he knew that he would answer for it one day. And that you are now asking us to do what? Not to discuss a fugitive. We shouldn't discuss a fugitive. Is that what you're asking? Or to clean him up even though he's a fugitive? So when you came here, you knew that the product you were selling, you could not sell it. And we warned you and you did. You can warn me as long as you want. But the important thing is that the OSP has stated.
Thank you.
The OSP has stated that he didn't send anybody.
Thank you, Honorable Adongo.
Why are you running away? Why are you running away?
Honorable Osenyako.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I have come in peace. I have come in peace.
You've come in peace.
Mr. Speaker,
you said you've come in peace.
Yes.
Very well. Let's listen to you.
God willing, Ghana will be 68 years this year. Mr. Speaker, we have seen government change all the time. Mr. Speaker, the wrong yesterday is not right today. If we are building a society, if we are building a country, if we are building a nation, Mr. Speaker, we cannot and we should not allow some of these ills to go on in our society. All of us sitting here, we are politicians. All of us. Tomorrow, it could be you. Today you think
it is Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, so it is okay. I will speak against it if it was meted to you. The fact that similar issue or same thing was done in 2017 doesn't mean that we should repeat same this time. You should listen to me. Mr. Speaker, I am sad. I am sad for Mother Ghana. I am sad for we as a politician, because tomorrow it will be your turn. And I cannot sit because I'm in the opposite side, so I will sit down and watch you be treated this way. Mr. Speaker, if you want to build a nation, if you want to build a democracy, let us use the laid down procedures. I am not speaking to shield anybody. The laws are clear that if anybody is found guilty of committing any crime, there are laid down procedures to deal with such matters. We don't use a Rambo style action to go to somebody's house. I have just a caution. I have a message for the president. President Mahama should listen to me. Mr. President, Ghanaians voted for you massively so that you come and unite this country.
Thank you.
They did not vote for you to come and divide this country.
Thank you.
If he want to leave a legacy long after he has leave his office, then I am begging him that he should use the laid down procedure to address some of these matters.
Right, so we are still live in Parliament. We will take you back when the feed is stable. But for now, that's the situation on the floor of Parliament. Members clearly divided on the raid that took place at Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta's house yesterday, and the decision taken by the Office of the Special Prosecutor declaring him wanted in connection with 6 ongoing investigations. And then, of course, the other matters that we have. Now, Martin Pebu is a private legal practitioner, which Nahiagba is Director of Communications with the governing, with the opposition NPP. Let me pick, Mr. Martin Pebu, good to have you here on the pause. First, your reaction to what was said by the OSP today.
My first reaction, the first statement I wish to make is that I'm not impressed at all that the OSP didn't put in place measures to prevent Mr. Ofori-Atta from traveling, right? Because we all know that Ofori-Atta left office earlier in the year in 2024, right? And this SML matter had been on for months. Yeah, I remember even for me, I acted as lawyer, and I'm still lawyer for the Media Foundation for West Africa and others. We sued in August in respect of that matter. So what I'm looking at is that a matter that for months was in the public domain, even private people, we looked at it and we could sue in August. OSP sat down and like we say, Kukwasa, the January for Ofori-Atta to lead back. It's one, and especially in light of the fact that the ordinary Ghanaians started clamoring that, hey, be careful, some of these ministers are going to leave. They are going to leave. They are going to bolt. They are going to abscond. So there was a warning. You see, Mr. Brobe, I'm not happy because, you know, not long ago, a similar thing happened in the context of Ofori-Atta when OSP said it could no longer continue the investigations, all right, because it wasn't finding any evidence. The evidence looked in the direction of money laundering. Kissi Ejabin said he was going to hand over the money that was recovered from Madame Dapa. Can you imagine? Over $500,000, millions of Ghana cedis, etc. That he was going to hand over to Madame Dapa. So we started making noise on radio and TV that Mamiti Wadi Dankwa, then Yoko boss, should take steps to quickly send some of his men to be present at the handing over ceremony. Let me call it ceremony. It doesn't have to be a fanfare. The moment you are handing over, we can also call it a ceremony.
Right.
Mamiti Wadi didn't do so, and the money was given to handed over to Ofori-Atta.
Because at that time, the OSP had made it clear that they had no reason or legitimate, in fact, they had no power at that time to hold on to the money because they had come to the end of their investigation and Madame Dapa had no case to answer.
Yes, that's why I said, so that's why OSP said, by law, they are allowed to continue investigating, right? So they said, the crime looks more like money laundering. So we're going to hand over the money to Ofori-Atta. Kissi Ejabin made that public. So my point is that, and we started calling on Mamitiwa to be present, not she herself. No, Yoko has hundreds of policemen. So she should send her policemen to be present when Kissi Ejabin is handing over the money so that they also take it. Because the first basic rule in money laundering is that if you see somebody with money, and that money is beyond the income of that person, whether from salary or any other business, then straight, you are in the area of money laundering. Right? And this is a case where, as part of the OSP investigations, Madame Dapa had sought to explain the source of that money on 2 occasions and failed. She said cosmetic business, named 2 cosmetic businesses. Checks by OSP showed that she didn't own those. Then at the time, she said her deceased brother owned $800,000. When the deceased brother's wife heard it and wanted to take her on, then she changed her script, etc. So that money should have been taken straight away. Yet, Mamiti was sat down and allowed the money to be returned. I see that as similar to Kissi Ejabin sitting down for months, over 6 months, and allow Ofori-Atta to
maybe I'm not holding brief for the OSP, but maybe at the time they were still doing the investigation and there was no probable cause to detain him or to bring him in. Maybe this is the time that they are conclusive that he has questions to answer. The reason they've taken this action, but some have described it as embarrassing, unbecoming of the OSP, and that he's been controlled. In fact, Mr. Ansasa is demanding his resignation for what he described as his misconduct in the handling of this matter. Do you think the OSP has done right as far as the route he's taken is concerned?
Mr. Abrobe, to be clear, I think my argument for saying I'm not impressed with the OSP is apparently different from Mr. Ansasa. So mine, I'm saying they've been slow and they allowed Ofori-Atta to abscond. But Mr. Ansasa, I didn't get to follow. I just heard the part that they shouldn't allow NDC to use them. Please, what reasons did he advance? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the reasons myself.
But away from that, is the OSP right in declaring Mr. Ofori-Atta a fugitive from justice?
Well, to be honest with you, what we usually do, the practice, okay? If you look at it by analogy, that police also do it. They announce that they are looking for so and so, and it's long entrenched. So I'm being open-minded. I'm looking at the practice right now. You can ask the police hierarchy. They also do it. And in the OSP Act, you see that they also have the powers of police. So if police can publish that we are looking for a Simesi, okay, Anna or Bintin, and the OSP is said to also have police powers in the law, then it stands to reason that they can also do this. Some of these things, for now, I've seen other lawyers arguing against it. I'm one person who is taking a lot of these cases to court.
Right.
So for those who say no, you can't do such a publication. The courts are there. Let them go. Let the Supreme Court look at it, and then we'll all be wiser upon the Supreme Court decision.
All right.
But now it's something the police have been doing, and the OSP Act saying that OSP has powers of the police, then it stands to reason that OSP can also do so. Right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matthew. I will take our viewers back to Parliament shortly, but let me allow Mr. Wichenhyagba. He's been on the line for some time. Mr. Hyagba, so is the party MPP taking any position on this matter?
Thank you very much. I think that as a party, we appreciate the accountability burden on all of us, especially on our ministers and people who are served in government. That's who we are. We appreciate that. We won't shy away from it. But what we don't agree with is the route that the special prosecutor is taking, seeking to indict people, seeking to besmirch the character of people, pronounce them guilty when they have not been tried, dealing with suspects as though they are criminals. And I find that to be objectionable, and that's what we're opposed to. And the debate that is ongoing in Parliament that you screen to your viewers, that's what it tells you. I am, for the life of me, wondering how do you declare somebody a fugitive that you are talking to? How do you declare somebody a fugitive whose doctors have issued a note to you or sent you a letter indicating the procedure and his treatment, and told you that the man is with us? Mayo Clinic is not a small clinic. It's one of the internationally reputed clinics in the United States of America. They have issued you a letter indicating the health of the person they are taking care of. And I have told you, if the special prosecutor is in doubt, that Ken Ofori-Atta, during the COVID period, was just by grace that he's still with us. He was very sick, and you saw it. To the extent some of us were saying that he needs to take a break, but he was committed to the national assignment and stayed on and managed his way up until now. Ken, as a person, is an accomplished individual. He has wealth and access in this country, okay, such that he will not run away from this country. He will not run away. So what is this busy for nothing attitude of the special prosecutor? To declare somebody you in your own invitation says is a suspect to aid in an investigation, which investigation we have not concluded. If he had concluded the investigation and something has been found against him, or he's been pronounced as guilty for anything following that trial, then you can say that Ken is running away. He is not being tried. And he is not, the special prosecutor, taking the requisite steps to secure a judgment against him on which back he can say he's running away from any accountability. So all of these things have not been done. And the special prosecutor is just advancing without all these due process and, criminalizing an individual, calling someone a fugitive, when in actual fact, he has no basis to do that. And that's what we are objecting to. We are in full support of any measure to bring people to account, but we say that let's do that according to law. Let's make sure that people's rights, civil rights, human rights, and legal rights under our jurisprudence be respected, that nobody be abused. A due process should not be short-circuited. He was in this country. One, Madam Sedinam Tanoko, he was convicted, wasn't she? He was convicted. Where was she? Did anybody do what special prosecutor is doing even before she was convicted? No. We're saying that the special prosecutor should take it slow. I agree with a view that perhaps he is being used, and he's shown the propensity to put the cart before the horse in the manner he's pursued all the investigations that has come before. He is rash. He is not diligent in the manner that he ought to be. And this is one key event such as that, where he is moving too fast and ignoring all the things he has to do legally before he gets to the point where he's pronouncing somebody a fugitive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Richard Ahiagba. Let me take you back to Parliament now. because the leaders are about to conclude on this statement that was read on the floor by the NPP's caucus whip, Habib Idrisu, first raising issues about the raid that took place at Mr. Ofori-Atta's house yesterday and the latest development on this matter by the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
He's an officer, I believe, of national security of the state. So please, let's not sit here and say things that would dent the image of the men and officers of the Ghana Armed Forces in uniform. So let's be careful. Let's be careful when we say that soldiers were sent, because no soldier was sent to the residence of the defense minister. Mr. Speaker, please, let's be cautious.
Honorable Minority Leader, I recognize Honorable Majority Leader on a point of order. Are you also on a point of order against the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, take it easy. He didn't say he was up on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, he didn't say so. He didn't say so. And please allow, he made an intervention for the good of us. I am back on the same level, please. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Honorable Leader of the House that we should tread cautiously. Rightly so. But, Mr. Speaker, we have heard a colleague make a statement for Hansel that the respected senior member sent soldiers here to kill us. Those were the words. Mr. Speaker, in the same spirit, we need to be careful. Two, I have publicly acknowledged the diplomacy of the majority leader, and I have no reason to doubt him. But I always act in good faith. I shared with him, although private, but I will tender it since it has been raised. Videos of soldiers in uniform at raiding the residence of Mr. Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, indeed, he is right in saying that the man being spoken about as the one leading the team is now a civilian. That is true. Mr. Richard Jakpa, who works with national security, and indeed the one who led the soldiers, is a state security operative. But, Mr. Speaker, the point is very clear. That
are you very sure that it's a state security operative?
Mr. Speaker, he says so. It's not coming from me. He confirmed. These are the words of the majority leader. It's not mine. This is Japan. That is what, So, Mr. Speaker, yes, he has confirmed. He says he is a state security operative. It's not coming from me. Mr. Speaker, I have shared the videos with him, and I was fair in my dealings with him by saying that this is a matter that I want to raise. So, Mr. Speaker, let us be guided by what he has just told us and allow our colleague to proceed. I have gotten a signal from my respected colleague who has just been nominated as a deputy minister that he wants to withdraw that aspect of the submission. Oh, he says so, please. It's not, Mr. Speaker, I will not impose anything on him. He signaled that in view of the caution from the leader, he wants to withdraw. If he wants to, that is his matter. I am only telling Mr. Speaker, that's the signal he's giving me. Mr. Speaker, let's be fair with each other. This democracy that you are celebrating today.
Honorable Minority Leader,
Mr. Speaker, I'm concluding. Mr. Speaker, once upon a time, we had 169 seats in this house. You have made it, enjoy it, but let us be mindful. Let us be mindful that we are a family. I told us once some weeks ago that let us learn from the Jinapo brothers. I rest my case.
Thank you, Honorable Member, Honorable Sule.
Oh,
I will give you the floor. I'll give you the floor. Honorable Nyindam, resume your seat. Honorable Sule, you have the floor.
Speaker, I'm grateful for this opportunity to withdraw the words he brought in military to kill his brothers. My understanding of the role of the military is that they are trained to kill. That's where I was coming
Honorable
from.
Suleiman.
So I withdraw.
Honorable Suleiman, are you withdrawing?
So I'm withdrawing.
Are you withdrawing? Or what are you doing?
Unreservedly. He's my brother, and I will not do anything to hurt him. So I withdraw them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, statement accordingly withdrawn. Order. Honourable member, conclude. You have 2 more minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Chiwete, can we have some order?
Mr. Speaker, see how pleasant it is that as brothers we are able to understand each other. That should be the spirit that we carry on in the administration of government. Mr. Speaker, we all have a right, and Chapter 5 of the Constitution guarantees our right as citizens. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if you look at Article 14 of our Constitution, it is very clear. It is very clear that no person shall be deprived of their liberty except in accordance with the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, the rate and the style, the Rambo style at which they invaded Ken Ofori-Atta's house. This morning, my little daughter came to me, and she was asking me, "Daddy, is Ghana at war?" Then I asked her, "Why? Mommy, why? Why? What is happening?" Then she was like, "Daddy, get on social media."
Honourable member,
look at how military
I am not
men.
supposed to be interrupting you. You quoted a constitutional provision that we need to act in accordance with the law. Are we going to be able to establish whether they have acted in accordance with law or not? Is this House going to establish whether they have acted in accordance with law or not, having regard to the fact that justice emanates from the people of Ghana and it is exercised on their behalf by the judiciary?
Mr. Speaker, it is very clear. It is very clear that from all the statements we have read from the OSP, there's no warrant. People invaded the house of Ken Ofori-Atta. Today, even the OSP that we all thought that led that attack is even running away from the fact that he led those attacks to Ken Ofori-Atta's house. Mr. Speaker, today we have a former military person who has been caught on video, clear video, invading the house of Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, that should not happen. I'm saying that.
Honourable member, did I hear you say he's running away from the facts? He made a categorical statement that the people are imposters.
Who made that statement?
And he didn't authorize them.
Well,
and you said he's running away from that particular fact, as if he authorized them and now running away from them.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your guidance. I appreciate your guidance. But Mr. Speaker, we are all in the media space. We know what is happening. We know what people are saying. I am saying that this morning, newspapers carried that the OSP, in fact, the Herald newspaper carried that the OSP is the one that undertook this exercise. In his press conference, it denies that fact. It denies that fact. All I'm telling my colleagues is that we live in a country where a president has been given over 56% of votes. He promised, now come and sit down, Kwame, sit down. He promised Ghanaians that he is going to reset the entire system. But Mr. Speaker, today what we see in administration, in the administration of the NDC, it's more like a coup d'etat had happened in Ghana.
Honourable member, conclude.
Being raided and all of that. Mr.
Honourable member, conclude.
Letters are being issued sacking civil servants in our country. Something we have not seen before. Even directors of companies are being sacked. Mr. Speaker, directors of companies are being sacked.
Honourable Member, your time is up.
Mr. Speaker,
I proceed to give the floor to Honourable James Agalga.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion.
Honourable Member, resume your seat, please.
4 minutes. Mr. Speaker, you
please
took all my
resume
time.
your seat.
You took all my
Honourable
time.
James Agalga, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, the statement made by the deputy minority whip was made in the realm of the purported violation of the rights of the former finance minister. If my understanding of that statement serves me right, Mr. Speaker, then of course we have reason to ask ourselves which of the human rights provisions enshrined in Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution has been violated. That is the question. The maker of the statement cited a judicial decision in support of the statement. Now, that particular judicial decision, I didn't hear him well, but he mentioned Director of Prisons. That particular judicial decision relates to fair trial principles. But, Mr. Speaker, in the case of the Minister for Finance, he is not on trial. And so the principles enshrined in Article 19 of the Constitution will not apply to him for now. The closest we can come to, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the human rights provisions in our Constitution would be Article 15 of our Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, I will take you through Article 15. And I expect, with the greatest of respect, the minority leader to respect the fact that I am truly a human rights advocate, and he can bear testament to that fact. So let him not interrupt me when I am advancing my arguments.
Honourable Member, you are not interrupted in any manner. Address the chair.
Article 15 of our Constitution talks about the respect for human dignity. And this is what it says. The dignity of all persons shall be inviolable. 2, no person shall, whether or not he is arrested, restricted, or detained, be subjected to A, torture, or other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. B, any other condition that detracts or is likely to detract from his dignity and worth as a human being. It goes on and on and on, but those are the relevant provisions I want to relate to. Mr. Speaker, the question is, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta has not been arrested. He's not in the custody of the police. So how do we start talking about a violation of his right to human dignity? The steps that have so far been taken by the special prosecutor.
Honorable Stephen Amwa, let's listen to him in silence.
Mr. Speaker, the steps that have so far been taken by the special prosecutor is in accordance with law as prescribed under Article 18 of our Constitution. That same Article 18, Mr. Speaker, talks about the right to property and the fact that it shouldn't be interfered with, your property rights, your home, etc., etc. But Article 18 comes with an exception, where the state security apparatus decides to act in prevention of crime or in detection and punishment for crime, an exception is created under Article 18. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, even granted, assuming without admitting, that security agents stormed the house of Ken Ofori-Atta, we should be asking ourselves, did they obtain a warrant from court? Did they obtain a warrant from court? I think our colleagues on the other side should file an agent question and determine for themselves whether they acted with a warrant or without a warrant before they draw certain conclusions. Now, Mr. Speaker, the special prosecutor has spoken. He says he extended an invitation to Ken Ofori-Atta, and his lawyers offered to present themselves for questioning. And he said, no, lawyers are not the subject of the investigation. So he wants to talk to Ken Ofori-Atta himself. Could this be the reason why agents of our state security apparatus stormed his home? Mr. Speaker, let me remark that when Honorable John Jinapor's home was stormed, there was no prior invitation extended to him by any state security agency mandated to investigate any matter. Likewise, the home of Dominic Ayene, the current Attorney General, was stormed, equally stormed. What was his crime? His crime was that he only wrote a legal opinion. A legal opinion warranted the storming of his home without a prior invitation from the police. These are the facts we should compare and contrast. And so, having said that, I did indicate that I, as a lawyer, a human rights advocate,
Member, conclude,
who was struggling to establish for myself which of the provisions of our Constitution have been violated, I found none. Ken Ofori-Atta can submit himself to the law for purposes of investigation, and when there are violations, I'll be the first to speak for and on his behalf. Not until then. He should be law-abiding, come back home, and engage with the special prosecutor so that the allegations that have been leveled against him can be dealt with. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Honorable Stephen Amwa. Honorable Stephen Amwa, before you start, let me remind the entire House that we are operating within the ambit of Standing Order 93.5. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to make it emphatically clear that Ken Ofori-Atta hasn't run away. Mr. Speaker, I would like to advise this August House that I think our actions and omissions over the years have actually defined us, and we have given the public, the external stakeholders, to always see us in different lenses. And it is time we put an end to what we are doing to each other. Mr. Speaker, some of the descriptions they're giving, some even went to the extent of saying that the economy that he left, in fact, I cannot repeat those evil words they use in-house. Mr. Speaker, 2016, the economic Ken Ofori-Atta inherited was growing at 3.4%. Mr. Speaker, the inflationary rate was 15.4. Mr. Speaker, lending rate was about 40%. But for COVID, by 2019, we were growing 7%. Inflation was 7%. Under Ofori-Atta, we have been able to implement one of the most enviable pro-poor policies on the continent of Africa. How could you describe such a man because of global crisis? Your own former finance minister, do you know the description you are giving to your country? Do you know how you are placing Ghana on the globe because of politics? Do you know what you are doing to your country? Very soon, your ministers will be leaving Ghana for other places, for international assignments. And this is what they will read from your own lips. Mr. Speaker, we shouldn't allow this outmoded that colloquial primitive politics to continue to destroy our country. Mr. Speaker, we are one people with one destiny as a nation. Mr. Speaker, I am only advising the House.
Honorable Sivinamwa, did I hear you say primitive politics?
No, I'm talking about Ghana.
Will you consider withdrawing the word primitive politics?
Okay. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I have done so. But Mr. Speaker, I think I have to make myself clearer here. I am not even speaking against one side. I am talking about actions and inactions, omissions and behaviors that are dwindling the very reputation of this House. We've been doing this to ourselves for far too long. Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, even if you are driving Land Cruiser, they think you're a politician, whether NDC MPP, they don't respect us. And this is why I'm bringing it to our attention, that we allow yesterday's propaganda or actions or omissions to continue to keep on destroying the very image and reputation of this August House. Is that what we want to do? This is the question I'm asking. Mr. Speaker, are we teaching the younger generation what we are doing today? Mr. Speaker, what does the Constitution say? Article 18, Clause 2. With your permission. A. No one shall be subjected to the interference of his private home and properties. Has that happened or not? The very Constitution that we ourselves, the very laws that we ourselves make, we are undermining the same laws because of politics. We should not sit here and because of politics forget the fact that the same kind of Ofori-Atta made your family members have free school. Your nephews, your children, your aunties, your friends, your mosque members, your church members. But for Ofori-Atta, they would have been home. Let us stop these things against either NDC or MPP. Let us maintain our reputations as a house. Let us believe in one fact that we are one people with a common destiny as a country. All these things we must stop. That is what I mean. Yesterday's politics we should forget. Because we are destroying each other. And we call ourselves honorable members. We all deserve that. But please, Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to tell the House is that sometimes, because of politics, we say these things, we think we are joking. But those out there, they believe in what we say and they disrespect all of us. Let us protect each other. Let us keep the dignity of this House intact and portray to the people out there that, yes, we have changed. Mr. Speaker, I am ending by telling each and everyone, especially my brothers and sisters from the other side, to repent. To repent. These behaviors must be stopped. We don't do that to ourselves. Look at Honorable Agoja, very respectable, our leader, respectable. We are all respectable members. But because of politics, I should call you thief, you are this, you are that. And when you go out there, you want people to respect us. I think this should be the last time for all of us. Let us show love and constructive discussions. Constructive conflict C type, not A type.
All member conclude.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to re-emphasize the point that Ken Ofori-Atta, until proven guilty by court of competent jurisdiction, cannot be described and defined as somebody who is criminal. Thank you very much.
I proceed to give the floor to Kwame Jijoli-Gakpe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta is not above the law. He is not above the law. And then when the special prosecutor, they read the statement today, he is talking about the cathedral. They mentioned cathedral issue. They mentioned SML issues. Those are the issues the special prosecutor is investigating. When they call upon Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta to avail himself to the authorities to do the needful, he sent lawyers. And the lawyers they send, they want to represent him. Where is Ken Ofori-Atta? He's outside this country. We call upon our former finance minister to do the needful and come back to Ghana and do the needful. This is about public money. It's not personal money. He's not above the law. The security agencies went to the house lawfully. What we should be looking at is that we should inquire as a house whether they have search warrant to go to Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta's home. It's not about wearing white dresses. So nobody is above the law. When you hold public office, you need to be what? Accountable. The day of accountability have arrived. We were in this country. John Jinapo's home was raided. Former Attorney General's home was raided by the military people. Members were invaded in this chamber. At that time, we don't have the locus to say and condemn it. Today we have the moral temerity, the audacity to say that it is wrong. You have the moral ground to talk. We didn't know the day of reckoning will come today. Here we are. Now you are karma. This is what we call karma. Karma is real. Those days where even members of parliament are being chased. They can prevent us. They can't even do the dutiful duties. Here we are. So all that I want to say is that Ken Ofori-Atta is not above the law. He should submit himself. He should stop running away. He's out of the country. Please call upon him to come back to the country. He shouldn't run behind excuse of medical condition and he will not come. He is fit for purpose, and then we are waiting cautiously, we are waiting patiently for Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta to arrive in this country to submit himself to the authority for the needful to do. Why? What are you running away from? What are you running away from? Cathedral, 58 million Ghana cedis was sunk. Dollars, $28 million. $58 million. Which can build Kosimiti, can build a lot of road. It can build Kosimiti. Is it not true? OPK, is it not true? It can build hospitals. It can build markets. He can do a lot of roads. The agenda 111 business would have finished.
Honorable conclude.
And what are we talking about?
Honorable Gakwe, conclude.
What SML? Is it not true? Is it not true? Yes. The biggest hole ever Ghana have actually constructed. So nobody is chasing former minister for me. He is supposed to submit himself to the authority to do the needful. And he is not above the law. Mr. Speaker, on this juncture, he swore an oath to protect the public purse. And now the day of accountability is here. So he should just commit himself. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Now, leadership of the House.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make my comments on this matter. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, a former Minister of Finance and a former presidential envoy, has contributed to nation building. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, when His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo nominated him for the Finance Ministry portfolio, this House had to wait because he indicated he was unwell and seeking for medical treatment outside. Mr. Speaker, in fact, when he even came, he was the only minister that his vetting took 2 days. And in between, this House indulged him to enable him take some break, to enable him proceed with his vetting. Eventually, he left government as a cabinet minister. And, Mr. Speaker, for the records, on the 2nd of January 2025, he wrote to the then Chief of Staff that he needed to travel to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, USA, for some medical procedure. Mr. Speaker, after President Mahama had taken office, he again wrote to the current Chief of Staff in a letter dated the 22nd of January 2025, indicating that he would again be absent from Ghana for the same purpose. Mr. Speaker, in fact, in the said letter to the Chief of Staff, he attached a letter from the hospital that he was seeking treatment. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the OSP wrote to him on the 24th of January. In fact, this is the first letter that he received from the OSP. Mr. Speaker, in the said letter, Mr. Ofori-Atta instructed his lawyers to respond to let the OSP know that indeed he was out of the jurisdiction seeking medical treatment. Mr. Speaker, what happened yesterday by state security operatives must be condemned by all of us. Honorable John Jinapor has narrated his own ordeal, but the records of this House will confirm that when that happened, Right Honorable Speaker Okwe condemned that act. If indeed something had happened yesterday, it does not mean that we should continue today. Mr. Speaker, I have heard human rights activists, respected lawyers for that matter, quote Article 18 of the Constitution to say that that is not applicable in this case. Mr. Speaker, I beg to submit that that was a wrong appreciation of the law. Military men led by Mr. Richard Jakpa unlawfully entered the premises of Mr. Ofori-Atta, searched his rooms.
Honorable Minority Leader, the unlawful entry is by your own determination.
Mr. Speaker, you know that by virtue of where we sit, we are able to do some background check before we come here. I wouldn't want to mention names, but Mr. Speaker, when inquiry was made, Mr. Speaker, when inquiry was made, it was obvious, and I stated for emphasis that those officials from the state did not have any warrant. Mr. Speaker, we should not encourage such an approach. We should not. Our democracy is still young. Today, it is Ken Ofori-Atta. Tomorrow, it will be another person. Some of our colleagues should not forget that only yesterday, it took the intervention of certain prominent members of our side to ensure that they were not mistreated. We will not mention names. They know. So these should be the voices of reason on this occasion. Some members worked in the night to ensure that people, members of the political class who are members of this House, were not mistreated. Mr. Speaker, let me remind colleagues Today, if you are praising the OSP, let's not forget that not too long ago, we had some of our members at the receiving end by the OSP. Don't let us also forget that even the president himself became a subject matter of OSP investigation. And he was not happy with certain words used by the OSP against him. So don't let us celebrate. Don't let us celebrate because today it is Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, all manner of things are being said that Ken has done this, has done that, has done that. I listened to my colleague from Keta, and I listened to my respected colleague from Bogatanga Central, enumerating what to him amount to offenses. And they also argued again that the man has not been tried, therefore there cannot be any human rights abuse. Mr. Speaker, if you invade somebody's home and raid his home, Article 18 of the Constitution protect that person, except when you are doing so lawfully. On this occasion, there was no such law. There was no such law supporting their actions. So they shouldn't be here happy with it. These 4 years will soon come. No, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, I think the honorable member's order, that response was in respect of the allegation of breach of natural justice. And you and I are very much aware that natural justice is in two main ways: the Ofori-Atta pattern and Nemo Judas in Council, but actually not in respect of the Constitution. The statement states there was a breach of natural justice.
Mr. Speaker, the contention here is that the man's home was raided by state security operatives, rather unlawfully. And I dare contend that that conduct was unconstitutional. That is my respectful submission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have done a lot of follow-ups on this matter, and I regret to say that we are not sending the right signal to our electorate. Mr. Speaker, the man has put the state on notice of his absence from the jurisdiction. He has made available his medical records coming from a respected medical facility. Mr. Speaker, today, I repeat, if our friends think that it is another person, so it is okay, and they are describing Ken Ofori-Atta in all manner of forms, let me remind them that none can ever rule this country with perfection. The man, Mr. Speaker, at the risk of being repetitive, Honorable Stephen Amwa was clear in his language of submission that indeed the successful implementation of the free SHS was led by Ken Ofori-Atta as a finance minister. He made sure that he rolled out all important policy of government. Mr. Speaker, if you have any issue, follow due process of law. It is not enough for national security to raid his home. It is not enough to carry armed military men to his residence to terrorize his children and by extension his neighbors. Mr. Speaker, we must, as a house, be united with one voice to condemn this act Today is Ken Ofori-Atta. Next will be other appointees. Mr. Speaker, we must not allow this. Mr. Speaker, only yesterday, we saw the Attorney General applying to the court with an application we call nolli prosequi in law, simply saying that he's discontinuing certain cases. That is within his right as an Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, what signal are we sending to the nation that, oh, if it is NDC and NDC is in power, it is right. If it is MPP and if it's MPP in power, it is right. Mr. Speaker, the political class of this country must rise above this. The political class of this country must rise above this. And I would conclude by saying that if indeed...
Honourable member, will you, no, I mean you are looking back, it is you I'm talking to. You are looking back, it is you I'm talking to. Will you listen to the leader in silence? Why? Leader, continue.
Mr. Speaker, Honourable Member for Keta talked about karma. And I agree with him. I've been reading a lot about karma. The wheels of karma indeed grind slowly, but with great surety. You have quoted it today. Enjoy it whilst it lasts. Mr. Speaker, today he says that we are reaping the fruits of a karmic effect of our actions. So it should be so. You have just come into government. You have a lot of projects you want to undertake. You'll be going to PPA. Ministers will be taking decisions. Some will be good, some will be bad. You will roll out policies for Ghanaians to benefit. Some will pay, some will not pay. You would engage the business community. So bear in mind that this karma you have just referred to, 4 years from today, we may. You can even call it 50 years. 50 years, 60 years. So let us solve the problem now. Let us encourage state security agencies with a mandate to investigate and prosecute to follow the law. Let's encourage them to follow the law. Honorable Nitiwu, in his submission, was being very emotional because just a week ago, he had to invite the leaders to intervene. Some and the clerk. Some people calling themselves state security operatives chased him, his car, a former defense minister. And when they saw the car papers, they now realized that whatever the information they had was wrong. A colonel had to come, and when he questioned them, that who sent you, they could not mention. So when we give certain wrong signals, some of those people at the lowest level take advantage to harass people, and even senior members who give order, when they realize that it is wrong, they are unable to even own up. Honorable Nitiwu, a former defense minister, suffered this just a week ago. It took the intervention of leadership and the clerk to parliament to sanitize the situation. Is that what we want? Is that what we want? Mr. Lord Comey, his house was raided. They searched his house, took away all his cars, and after 3 days, they said, we are sorry. They brought the cars back. Is that how we want to govern the country? Mr. Speaker, I shall conclude by urging my colleagues to support this call in bringing sanity in the country so that nobody will take advantage to unleash any violence on anybody. I rest my case. Thank you.
Yes, majority leadership.
Mr. Speaker, before the statement was made, I had cautioned that this is a statement that definitely will generate commentary that will provoke debate in clear violation of our standing orders. And I caution that it is a statement that will attract comments that will go to perhaps damage the reputation of somebody who is not in this chamber. I cautioned. But my friends on the other side insisted and made a statement. Mr. Speaker, if you are a believer in the rule of law and you know the law, you know that if you claim that somebody has improperly searched your house or your property, you go to court. You go to court for the courts to declare that your property rights have been violated, that your dignity has been violated, and the courts are there to provide you that service of taking a decision as to whether or not indeed your rights have been violated. In court, the two sides will be there, and they will all be heard. But if you choose to use a political platform like this one, Parliament, to raise matters that, properly speaking, are the business of courts, you will receive political responses. And that is what I see happening here. Mr. Speaker, as for me, what I hear being said here is that there is a certain class called the political class, and that political class must take care of each other. And what I hear being said in this chamber is that taking care of each other means that we should not hold each other accountable. Mr. Speaker, I have always contended that it will be the most dangerous thing that will happen to the democracy of this country if a certain group called the political class are allowed to conspire to protect each other. Because what will happen, Mr. Speaker,
members, order.
Mr. Speaker, I am saying what I hear. What I hear. There has been several referrals to a group called political class. Did you hear that or not? Several times there was a referral to a group known as a political class. And several times a call on members of the political class not to do this to each other. And what do we mean by let's not do this to each other? Let's not, when there is a change in government, try to hold each other accountable this way or that way. I take a position that, indeed, the reason why the voters go and vote for one political party as against the other is so that they will come and hold each other accountable. The day that we stop holding each other accountable, that will be the day the electorate will lose confidence in this democracy. And when they lose confidence in this democracy, that is the end of democracy in Ghana. So we must hold each other accountable. When we vote for a new party and the party come, they owe a duty to those who voted them to hold those who have been taken out accountable. As for how they do it, it should be a matter of following due process and the law. Let's talk about nolli prosequi. I heard somebody mention nolli prosequi. And withdrawal of prosecutions. Mr. Speaker, if the state of Ghana, if the Republic of Ghana prosecutes a citizen for 8 years and is unable to convict that citizen, then there's a problem. There is a problem. How can the state mount a prosecution for 8 good years with all the resources at the disposal of the state and yet not be able to convict that citizen? Or at least get a ruling on that citizen. Either you are guilty or you are not guilty. So when you are unable and you try somebody for 8 good years, 8 good years, and you cannot secure a conviction, then clearly there's something wrong with the case. And so if another Attorney General comes and is convinced that you don't even have a basis for the prosecution and enters a nolle prosequi, that is not a case of clearing people. You had 8 good years to secure a conviction, and 8 years you failed. Clearly there's something wrong, and that is what has manifested itself in a nolle prosequi. Mr. Speaker, let me say that I cautioned against making the statement because I didn't want us to go into a situation where we'll be making unfair comments about somebody who is not in the chamber to defend himself. Mr. Speaker, the facts are simple. That military officers, policemen, and national security personnel invaded, entered, searched the private property of the former Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I will not run any commentary on that matter until I have conducted some investigations, ascertain what the facts are, and then I will come and appraise this House of exactly what happened so that we can be properly informed. If there is anything that we should condemn about what has happened, we can collectively as a House condemn it. I caution you that don't make statements that would involve commentary that will undermine the image of someone, because I will not be happy if it is done to me, and that is why I objected. And so I'm not going to join colleagues to comment on the statement, except to add that the Office of Special Prosecutor has been severally mentioned. This was an office that was established to investigate and prosecute alleged cases of corruption and abuse of office by public officers. They have indicated that in this instance, they are investigating the former finance minister for 2 stated matters that they are investigating, which is matters relating to SML. I'm sure you are all aware that it was a big issue in this country where it is alleged that there was some corruption scandal relating to revenue assurance contracts awarded by the Minister of Finance and the GRA to SML. And then secondly, there's this big issue of the National Cathedral, which we all know the story of, that some monies were paid for work that is supposed to have been done there, and it is alleged that the work has not been done. So the special prosecutor is seized with the matter, is investigating the matter, and wants the former finance minister to appear before them for some investigation. They indicate that there are 2 other matters they are investigating, but they haven't indicated exactly what those 2 other matters are. So, Mr. Speaker, let's be cautious not to make statements that will be prejudicial to the work of the special prosecutor. And that was why I cautioned and advised that we shouldn't raise the matter in this chamber. But once we've made the issue a matter for discussion in this chamber, we cannot also begrudge those who run commentary on the personality of the former finance minister. But let me touch a little on this issue of using the military. Mr. Speaker, I shouldn't say this, but I am compelled to say it. The Electoral Commissioner the Electoral Commissioner, I have observed that for several years, a whole military battalion was placed in front of her house to protect her house. At a time when Nitiwul was the defense minister, didn't Nitiwul know that the police are available to provide security to the Electoral Commissioner? Nitiwul, he was defense minister, and he placed a whole military battalion at the entrance of the Electoral Commissioner's residence. And the Electoral Commissioner was guarded by soldiers who followed her all the time. Today, the same Nitiwul let me repeat it whilst he's here. Sit down, let me repeat what I said in your presence. I'm saying that you are very concerned about the use of the military to conduct searches in people's homes. And I'm reminding you that whilst you stood there as Minister for Defense and sat there as Minister for Defense, had oversight over the military, you used the military to guard the residence of the Electoral Commissioner. True or false? Mr. Speaker, he used the military to provide personal security for the Electoral Commissioner.
I recognize Honorable Dominic Nitiwul on the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And I want to thank the Majority Leader for dragging me back to the chamber. It is true, Mr. Speaker, that on the advice of state security, we gave soldiers to certain categories of people, including your good self.
Honorable Nitiwul will be guided by Standing Order 122.
Thank you. We did give to the Electoral Commissioner and the deputies. We gave to the OSP, and we also gave to the Speaker of Parliament. So it is true, and not just soldiers. There were joint soldiers and police. So that is true. But Mr. Speaker, that is different from, and they were not a battalion. First of all, they were not a battalion. A battalion of soldiers is 800 to 1,000 soldiers. So there was not a battalion. There were anything between 3 soldiers and 4 soldiers at a time.
So, Honorable Nitiwul, let me understand you. He alluded to the fact that when you are a defense minister, they use soldiers to guide.
Mr. Speaker, he did say that I use a battalion of soldiers to protect the Electoral Commissioner.
I heard soldiers.
I never use a battalion of soldiers to protect the Electoral Commissioner.
Honorable Nitiwul.
It is true.
The word used is soldiers. I have heard soldiers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me confirm again that the Electoral Commissioner enjoyed the use, not just the Electoral Commissioner, the Electoral Commissioner, the Speaker for about 2 years, the OSP, up to now the OSP, they enjoy the services of soldiers and police to guide them on the advice of state security. And at any time, and I wrote to them, and that at any time that we felt that circumstances demanded that we withdraw either the soldiers or the police, we will do that. And each of them had between 3 to 6 soldiers, depending on the circumstances. So it is true.
What is the point of order within the meaning of Standing Order 122?
So the point of order is that at no point did I use a battalion of soldiers to protect any individual.
Mr. Speaker,
Majority Leader, continue.
The simple point I want to make is that all regimes at all times have used the military together with the police in certain operations. You agree that that is the case? So today, if you see the military and the police working together, you cannot suddenly create an impression that something that is unacceptable has happened. Because we have used them together. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, night security, just night security. When we should be deploying the police, we often deploy them with the soldiers. With the soldiers. So let's not make it look like, for the first time, something that has never been heard of is happening in this country simply because a joint military and police team have visited the residence of the former finance minister. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Alfred.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know what raid means. I don't know what raid means, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know who was in the residence at that time. That's why I said give me time to conduct some inquiries and come and brief the House. But the first point I want to make is that don't make it seem as if something unheard of has happened because soldiers and police have visited the residence of a former finance minister. Mr. Speaker, as for the issues that have been mentioned here, the conduct of searches, the prosecution of politicians, investigation of politicians, we've all gone through all of that, and we are standing here, including my very good self. The OSP has investigated me, has taken me to, the court. I have fought my case. I have won. I won. So I advise you,
Honorable Majority Leader, please address the chair. Honorable Dominic Nitiwood,
I advise you.
You are a senior member of the House.
Instead of making it a subject of debate in this chamber, please go and answer the questions, like some of us boldly and confidently went and answered the questions. We were investigated, we were arraigned in court, we responded to our charges, we defended ourselves, and we got judgments in our favor. And then we are free people. That is how a democracy functions. Don't make it look like suddenly a particular class is under attack because institutions of state that are supposed to hold us accountable have activated themselves and are doing their work. I don't know if there was any raid, but I know that whether police or soldiers, any member of the security agencies can be used at any time. Can be used at any time in an effort to engage in law enforcement. That's how I see it. But like I said, I will check, double check, and come back to you with a report of exactly what happened. This House has a duty to protect the human rights of citizens. If you check our own standing orders, you know that we even have a committee, a human rights committee. And the job of the Human Rights Committee is to take on human rights complaints, investigate them, and then take the appropriate decisions in respect of those complaints. So we have a human rights mandate. And so if anybody thinks that his or her rights have been violated and decides not to go to the Human Rights Commission or to go to the High Court to seek an enforcement of their rights, but choose to make a petition to Parliament, Parliament's Human Rights Committee has a duty to take on the petition, investigate it, and then give appropriate direction. Because we don't have a committee yet, I undertake, as the leader of this House, to look into the matter, get some reports, and come and present it to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. This House is a house of debate, and we are guided by rules in the conduct of business, be it question, statement, motion, resolutions, among others. I must state that the manner in which the matter under consideration has been carried out certainly leaves much to be desired. Honourable members, Order 93 is very clear on prior indulgence of the House, and and the leave of the Speaker in the Speaker's admission of statement. The Speaker in the chair then indulged the maker of the statement with caution that honorable members will be circumspect and measured in their pronouncement. Unfortunately, in my own opinion, some honorable members certainly went overboard. Rules are made to guide proceedings. Where there are no rules, the Speaker is enjoined to provide appropriate interventions. I urge honorable members to be on the guide accordingly in order for order, decorum, and decency to characterize proceedings on the floor of this House. We must also be cautious to uphold the right of persons who do not have audience on the floor of the House in our conduct of proceedings. They may not have the opportunity to be heard on the floor of the House.